the Argo MOLE. I've been actually wanting a mid-size miner like this even shortly after the Prospector came out. Now that we have it, I want to take a look at its capability as a solo ship versus the multi-crew that it's intended for, and also break down this ship in a little bit of analysis from a blue-collar standpoint of utilitarian use of this ship. So let's get right into it. This ship has 5 operable seats. There's one seat that's the pilot seat, there's a co-pilot seat next to them, and then 3 separate mining seats. From the pilot seat, you obviously fly and control the ship. It's also the seat that's capable of doing the scanning and picking up the mineable objects. The co-pilot seat is one that operates like a lot of the other ships. Now, I really wish they had put more utility into the co-pilot seat. I think it would have been a good idea to allow the co-pilot to be able to scan for the minables. Right now, it operates like a lot of the other co-pilot ship seats, where it has minimal utility. You can turn some things off and on, do some minor operations of the ship, but it doesn't have a lot of utility. I really hope they make the co-pilot role in all of these ships a lot more interactive and a lot more things that they can do. With the 3 lasers, there's one located just outside of the co-pilot area. You take a ladder down and you access the mining compartment there. I'll go into the mining compartments in a little more detail later. The other 2 mining compartments, you have to go a little bit farther back in the ship, through a door, down a ladder, and there on the right and left, you access those 2 mining compartments. Now let's get right into the aspect about the solo of the ship, now that I've given you a little bit of a layout of how you access things. So you do have to pilot the ship from the pilot seat. What I found is that because all the lasers are remotely located from that central cockpit piloting area, you do have to get out of the seat and travel a little bit to get to any one of the mining lasers. The middle mining laser is probably the closest one. All the mining lasers had one thing in common. They had a great sort of lateral range to be able to look. They could look almost 90 degrees to the right and to the left, and they could look down pretty far. They could almost look straight down from each laser. What they could not do is look up very far. So one of the first rocks I went to, I positioned the ship in a way where I thought I should be able to easily access it from any one of the lasers, particularly the central one. What I found out is that the rock was just a little too high. My laser couldn't point up quite enough to be able to reach the rock. So, after leaving the pilot seat and going down to the mining chair, realizing I couldn't quite reach it, I had to climb back up into the pilot seat, move the ship a little bit, and then go back down to the mining laser. And I hadn't moved the ship quite enough. So, I had to leave the seat, go back up the ladder to the pilot chair, move the ship a little bit, leave the pilot chair, go back down to the mining seat, confirm that I could mine from it, and move on. This means that I actually could solo this ship, but I would have to get very comfortable with knowing the range of the lasers to be able to do that. Now, there's nothing particularly wrong with that, but using this ship solo, I also realized that I'm really just using one of the 3 lasers.
And that ain't bad.
And this ship is really meant to have the 3 lasers running to be able to knock down the rocks with the higher resistances. I showed that in one of my last videos. So you will be able to take this ship out to mine with it solo, but you're probably going to be restricted to the smaller rocks, the ones of lower resistance, and probably even the lower value ore rocks. I had noticed that it seems like the highest content of the most valuable ores was locked behind rocks that were particularly difficult to mine and probably out of the range of a single prospector. Now, I say that it is possible that some of the better mining heads on a prospector might be able to break them down. I haven't really investigated exactly what that threshold is, but certainly the MOLE is the best equipped, already having the 3 lasers on it. An advantage that the MOLE has over the prospector is an obvious one, and that is also its carrying capacity of ore. It carries right now 96 SCU of mineable ore, 3 times what the prospector can hold. So on a single trip, you will definitely be able to bring home more ore per trip. So if you are going to use this as a solo miner, you'll be making a lot more on each haul. But here was a downside of that I noticed. This ship, similar to a bulldozer or maybe an excavator or something, really chowed down the fuel. I hadn't been out here very long before I was down to 50% of my normal flying around type fuel. That was what it took just to fly to my location, get down to the planet, look for a decent rock. And because I had to position the ship in a way so I could reach it with the mining laser, I did have to keep the ship hovering above the ground while I was mining, which consumed more fuel.
Hydrogen fuel, 25% flare on.
I left out of here with just a handful of fuel left to be able to get back to a station to be able to sell it. Now this SCM thruster type fuel is expensive.
And it's going to cost you something extra.
I've filled up my Cutlass before, and I'm really not sure what the full capacity of this M.O.L.E is, but it does get expensive. Now to say exactly what it would cost per run on the ship is hard to say, but I can easily see it costing at least 1,000 UEC to fill this ship back up, even on a very efficient type of run. The Prospector sips fuel. It's the Prius of excavating ships. I barely had to put anything back into the Prospector because it used very little fuel while I was out, which is great for the solo mining. People have also asked, could I use the AI blades or have NPCs run the other lasers so I could optimize this ship? The answer is you probably will be able to at some point, but CIG felt that those NPCs would probably be so poor at the job, you very likely wouldn't want them, and I agree with that. I mean, you could get an NPC in there that could do some base mining. He will turn on the laser and fracture a rock and maybe even extract it up. But is he really going to be able to operate the laser optimally? Is he going to explode a rock that has that particularly good content that you want? Or is he just going to maybe extract up a bunch of inert material from one of the lower value chunks? All those is probably true. All that NPC or AI knows is, I shall mine. And that's probably about it. They even said it's likely that the NPCs might get your own ship blown up. So what about this from a multi-crew standpoint? Its intended role. I really thought CIG did a good job of really mapping this out. You feel like you're in this little mining home away from home. It's got a little eating area, sort of a meeting room for everyone, and it's got these 4 beds. So up to 4 players can log out of the ship and come back in. Now I had said it was a 5-seat ship, but I really think you could probably operate this pretty well with 4 people. Imagine that you do have the pilot, you probably want to keep someone in the pilot seat to fly the ship, maybe maneuver it a little bit so the mining lasers can get to it. But even if you have a co-pilot with you for the flying part and searching part of the operation, the co-pilot can very easily leave that seat and go down to mine one of the 3 lasers. So I do think it's probably optimized as a 4-person ship. 1 person in the pilot while you're mining, and the 3 mining lasers running. What I found particularly fascinating was the actual layout of the mining cockpits for the lasers themselves, particularly the side ones. But you go down and you enter into this little airlock area. And they also had a locker onto the side. And I thought this was really great. They were really making that immersion and that sort of blue-collar aspect where, hey, we're out here mining, we may be here a while, we're going to sleep in our beds, and here in this little compartment is where you could keep an extra suit, outside space suit, a flight suit, that kind of thing. Something that maybe was resistant to hot or cold. Because when you get in the actual mining cockpit, it detaches from the ship and separates. And then the little seat that you're sitting in slides out and you're fully exposed to the elements. You're not in a glass enclosure or anything within the ship. You're sort of sitting outside in this little metal cage. It felt a little reminiscent of some of the mechs almost that we've seen in various movies. And I thought making it like this also made it feel very industrial, very mining. Mining's a dirty business, you know? At least you're made to feel that it is, and you're exposed to the elements. It's a rough job, basically. And so out here, you've got some exposure. And you could see on my visor, I was actually collecting the water or whatever it was that was in the atmosphere that was buffeting me while I was trying to mine this rock. So imagine wearing one type of suit that might be for the cold, and you've got in the locker compartments another suit that's for the hot or something like that. A lava planet, something in pyro, and then wearing the right gear for the job. I also thought about how is a multi-crew going to share these profits? Now, right now, they do have service beacons, and people can post a service beacon, and if one of your crew members is on the ball and you've coordinated it and they can accept that service beacon right away, you do have a way to be able to share funds between you. It is a little bit clumsy. It is another thing that I think CIG does need to put in the game sooner than later, not only for ships like this Argo MOLE, where obviously a team is all working together and putting their effort into a group effort of mining, but you also need something like this for one of the multi-crew gunner ships, something like the Hammerhead, or any other type of ship where the intention is for it to be multi-crewed. The mission sharing is great, and for those more combat-oriented ships where you have gunners, yes, then you can share the mission with others, but for more economic gameplay like the mining or the trading, you need a way to be able to share profits a lot easier. So if you are going to take this out and multi-crew, then you really need to trust the people you're with and make sure that they all understand, hey, you're going to get paid.
I expect to be well paid.
But it's going to be a little bit under the table through a beacon. There is another way that a multi-crew on the MOLE could work this out, particularly if you're asteroid mining. Now, asteroids also oftentimes will contain those FPS minables. So maybe you just work it out with the crew and say, hey, we're going to go out and mine some asteroids. Whatever it is we find by random chance on the asteroid in terms of the FPS hand minables, the rest of the crew gets, and you guys divide amongst yourselves. Me, as the owner of the MOLE, I will take whatever the rock contents are. And that might be just a random way to be able to split out the profits. The more I think about it, the more I like that aspect. The MOLE operator owner, he's taking his chances on whatever kind of rock he might find out there. And the guys going along with him are also rolling the dice and taking their chances, kind of like a prospector, about what they're going to find, what minerals may be there. They could get a little bit skunked, or they could come out much better than even the MOLE operator himself. Overall, I did really like this ship. From a price point perspective, I actually didn't think the price they've put on it of $275 was all that bad. Considering that a prospector is worth $155, 3 prospector cargo holes would actually be $465. So you're getting a little bit of a bargain when you consider the fact that it does hold 3 prospectors would. And it also has that capability that 3 prospectors would have of having 3 lasers. On the actual laser capability, because this MOLE has size 2 lasers, I really thought the size 2 lasers would be very, very competent in terms of breaking down a rock. And they probably do provide a little bit more power, a little more output to the rock. But when I was mining this rock, it had a little bit of a lower resistance than a rock I had just looked at with the prospector, and its size was pretty comparable. And I had a really hard time mining it with just the one laser. I think a lot of this had to do with my distance from the rock.
He's almost in range.
Now in 3.8, there's a bit of an optimal range to be able to mine a rock. And it's true that the closer you are, the stronger your laser is going to be as well. I was probably a little too far from this rock. But again, it had to do with the difficulty of soloing a multi-crew ship. If I wanted to just nudge the ship a little bit closer, it was stop the laser, get out, go back to the pilot seat, rinse and repeat. So just having the size 2 lasers really didn't make a significant difference in terms of being able to mine the rock. There probably is some, and there's probably going to be some more balance coming, but right now it really wasn't there for me, at least not trying to do it solo, because the positioning of the ship was also a critical factor in trying to get the optimal range for the laser. Which is another reason why you really want to multi-crew this ship. You're going to need that pilot to move in and out from rocks and swing the ship around a little bit to catch the pieces that fly off to the sides, that sort of thing. So what's my recommendation? In the end, I think if you're getting this MOLE with the intention of soloing it, then it's probably not the best choice. That's just my opinion. The difficulty and frustration of getting in and out of the seats to be able to maneuver the ship and mine just didn't feel like it was worth it, purely for the fact that I was going to get 3 times the amount of ore. I would rather just be in my solo ship, go mine, take as much as I can in the prospector, and go sell it, and just do that 3 times, rather than have that frustration of moving around in this ship. Plus, that additional operating cost just didn't feel good to me, as a solo player anyway. This ship is so cool though. I don't think people are going to have too much difficulty finding other players to join them on their ship to go out and mine. I was really curious about what these black panels and these other lit panels might be able to do. Similar to the Prospector and what we've seen in other ships, there are panels that don't do anything and they're just there for cosmetics, and maybe that's all these are. But I had a feeling like these black panels might actually be operable in the future. These saddlebags that they have on the side are going to be detachable, and it's very likely that these control panels here that are black might actually operate that in the future. You come on and you detach and reattach the bags, but that's just pure speculation. These panels though did look a little suspicious to me. I really did like this little engineering room here though. You can actually see the little rocks being nommed around in here. I don't know exactly what all this was for or what it all does, but I just thought it was really cool. I'd also like to announce the winner of the December holiday gift card giveaway. It goes to Catzilla. To retrieve your prize, I'll need you to send me an email to my business email address you'll find on my channel homepage, and also include your RSI handle, which is the unique name you're known by in the game. The email that you send to me also needs to be the same email from which you created your RSI account. After that, your gift card should be waiting for you in your hangar. Hey, I hope you got something out of this video and that you liked what you saw. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be talking to you later.